I'll tell you why the Pomodoro method doesn't work for me. I'm lazy as heck. When's my reward? When's my break? Fade into the infinity, go. We all have no time. These are the things that really have worked for me. I'm not trying to vomit out rules for you guys. No milkshakes. Hey, welcome in. I'm really glad you're here. This video is really important for me and you. I spent about 3 months researching for this video. One of my subscribers asked me if I had any tips for managing time between subjects. And jokes apart, I thought if I'm not struggling with it, it means there's something that I'm doing that must be right. So I started researching and I found out that I was doing a couple of things right, and I'm here to share them with you today. I'm not trying to vomit out rules for you guys. It's more about what I do to overcome the obstacle of having to deal with multiple things at the same time. And I just ask you to, if you do find value in this video, please do send it to anybody that you think could benefit. If I had seen something like this or heard these things any sooner, my study life would be completely different now. I mean, it's not terrible. This is why I'm sitting here and telling you, but it would have been even better. But anyway, let's go back to the video. So the first thing I wanted to address, we are often saying we have no time. I don't think it's a lie. I do believe we don't have time nowadays, but I'll explain that later. So to start us off, I want you to imagine yourself entering a white room with nothing but a desk and a chair. No distractions, nobody, nothing. Just white walls and you have to stare at the white wall for 15 minutes. I am trying to get you to establish a scale of how much time feels to you. How long do you think those 15 minutes are gonna feel like to you? I did it myself over there. I have a bit more distractions in this room, but 15 minutes is a long time. Now I want you to imagine you bring in a dog with you. You're gonna be giggling and petting it. The 15 minutes are likely to go by faster. Now imagine instead of the dog, you have your phone. Those 15 minutes are gonna be out the window in 3 swipes. Your phone is worth how many dogs? How many dogs would you need to have in a room, or cats, or whatever, hamsters, whatever you think is cute, for the 15 minutes to go as fast as it would if you have your phone? We have so many distractions around us. These distractions nowadays are especially good at what they do. Even my Kindle, for goodness sake. The other day I was reading and I had my Kindle on the other side of the table and I could feel it pulling me. Like, there's something with technology, there's something about devices. They pull us, it's hard to resist. And where I'm trying to get here is that any device, smartphones, tablets, your Apple Watch is in that one, by the way. Get rid of them. Put them away, lock them in the closet, leave them in your granny's house, I don't care. They're so good at distracting us that very, very few people still feel like they have time. We all have no time. Technology shrinks our perception of time. And I'm personally a hypocrite when it comes to that as well, because I'm always saying I have no time. We do have time. I can't say I don't have time. But I do believe our collective perception of time is shrinking. But without any distractions, you can stretch that time. You can make it feel longer. Now, what do you do with that time is the question. What do I do with that time? I can't study for an hour. I need to study for at least 2 hours to be able to focus enough. If you think about a computer, our brains work in the same way. A computer has a set amount of memory that it has to run multiple apps at the same time. That one day when you open your favorite movie in the background and you try to render something on Photoshop at the same time, the little circle of death is gonna be loading forever. What is the first thing that we all do? We close the tabs. The problem is that in our brains, we can't do that. Have you ever tried meditating and telling yourself not to think about something? It's impossible. It's impossible. You can't tell yourself not to think about something without thinking even more about it. Sometime within that 2 hours, maybe 45 minutes in, I will find myself really focused. Because up to that 45-minute mark, your dad said something, you replied something wrong to somebody yesterday, your sister's going to a concert and she's asking you what outfit you're going to wear because she needs to plan hers and you can't stop thinking about it. Life is like that. So you need that time to focus on what you're doing. Only time can get that attention residue. Let it fade into the background. Fade into the infinity, go. But you need time. It's the only way. But what about the Pomodoro method? The one that you break longer chunks of time into smaller ones and then you give yourself breaks and prizes and whatnot. I'll tell you why the Pomodoro method doesn't work for me. Guys, I'm lazy as heck. I'm working using the Pomodoro method and I'm thinking, when's my reward? When's my break? I want my reward. The goddamn reward is always at the back of my mind. When am I gonna get my chocolate, Lola? It's hard to have to do your work that's already hard and have to control the animal that's in your head. That's even harder. So no, that does not work for me, and is probably damaging a lot of people's study lives as well. Don't hold me accountable for saying that, but I do believe. And I know it's hard to get through 2-3 hours of work. I'm not saying 10 hours. I'm just saying maybe 2-3 hours. 45 minutes does not work. An hour and a half plus. And the reason you need longer times at the beginning is because you're gonna take a bit of time to begin to focus. So the first time you try doing it, maybe you're gonna begin to focus in the first hour. Maybe you're gonna start to focus on the 45-minute mark. And the more you do it, the less time you're gonna take to get into that focus period. Some psychology specialists call it a state of flow. Have you ever tried doing something and you're focusing so much that time just goes like that? And it's kind of like a pleasurable concentration as well. It's like a state of deep, effortless focus. I'm sure that everybody who's played a musical instrument before has felt that. It's that feeling that you're just fully into something, and then when you look at the clock, 3 hours have gone by and there was not a single thought that rushed your mind whilst you were doing it. Driving also gives me a bit of that. In the beginning, you're gonna have to force yourself, but when you're trying to force yourself to do something, that's also taking a little bit of your memory in your background. Like I said, controlling the animal that's in your brain also takes effort, and all that effort is taking up space that could be to focus on that task. So you need to train your focus, and that focus is only going to be trained the more you do it and the longer you do it. When you're focusing, your neurons literally get stronger, and eventually you're going to be able to get into that state of flow deliberately. It's going to take 5 minutes until you're deeply focused onto something, aiming to become more comfortable with the unpleasant experience of getting yourself to focus, because the more you do it, the more pleasant it becomes. Not necessarily easier, but more comfortable. Comfortable is the key word here. So now you know that without distractions, you can stretch your time a bit, and you know how to organize that time. Longer chunks for each task rather than smaller little bursts. The third question would be, how do you avoid procrastination? How do you keep motivated? Now, procrastination is very interesting. It can come from a lot of root causes, which I'm studying at the moment actually, so I can make you a video. But all I'm gonna say is, anything needs momentum to happen. And the momentum is what takes the most energy. When you start a car and you start driving, that's where it takes the most fuel. Starting something is what takes the most effort out of us. The second you get an assignment, or the second you get a task, jot down something, anything. Even if it's a date and I need to do this. When you receive an information, instantly your brain starts to make connections. If your teacher tells you, you need to write an essay, you instantly will go, okay, maybe I can write about this. Oh, I really don't want to talk about that. Even if it's something that you want to avoid doing whilst doing the task, that's okay. Put it on the paper. Anything that you've started, anything that you've created the file's there. When you need to access it next time, you don't have to go through the struggle of creating the file. So just get started the moment that you get motivation, because motivation is rare. If you're scrolling and you get motivation from any kind of video, drop your phone, go do the thing that you need to do, because motivation is one of the hardest things to get, and the second you get it, you should use it. But back to the point, whenever you get a drop of motivation or insight in your brain, jot it down, because it's going to be so much easier for you to go back to it. And also, when you're halfway through a task, let's use the example of writing an essay, for example, stop writing in the middle of a sentence. Don't finish that sentence, because when you come back to it, you're going to be forced to finish that thought process. And it's almost like you're going to pick up the job exactly where you left it at. Because if you finish that sentence, the next time you come back, you have to start a new one. And that's annoying. Starting something new is annoying. That's what it takes the most effort. So try not to leave anything to be started at the beginning of a study session. Always keep continuing things. So get started and keep continuing. That's the first thing with procrastination. The second thing that I want you to remember is we work according to what we've done in the past. It's a survival mechanism. If you go to the forest and you see a bear and you stay still and quiet and the bear goes away, what are you gonna do the next time you see a bear? You're gonna do the same thing. You're not gonna scream and run. You repeat things if it kept you out of trouble. A student that's worked their ass off to get an A+, and then they get the A+, next assignment when they want to get an A+, they're gonna work their ass off again, right? But if you don't mind about an A+ and you just want to pass, and then you leave everything for last minute and then you pass, what do you think you're gonna do next time, honey? You're gonna repeat the same behavior because it got you to pass. You're very likely at one point in your life to get to the point where you're just trying to pass, because we as humans look for the things that take the least effort. But you need to remember that whatever you do, you're gonna keep repeating in the future. And you can never tell yourself, this is the last time I procrastinate, because it will happen again. The only thing you can say to yourself is, last time I procrastinated was the last time I procrastinated. Because if you're procrastinating again, it's gonna keep happening. It's gonna keep happening. You gotta break the chain at some point. That's all I tell you. Us, at this point in our lives, are creating our past constantly, every day. We are not working towards the future because the future is never here. So what I heard a YouTuber say recently, and I'm gonna link her channel below, it's Brazilian, but she deserves the credit. You need to understand that your present is creating the past of your future self. And this way, you're able to focus on right here, right now, instead of thinking in the future. Because if you're thinking in the future, most of the times you don't achieve things. You achieve things when you work in the present. Your future self who's getting A+, what is the past that she needs to have in order to get those A+? Don't procrastinate. You don't want to be sitting on the same sofa. And in order not to procrastinate, you can get things started as soon as possible and keep continuing. And I hope that helps, because those are the only two tactics that I usually use. I don't know about any others. I'm sure there are more out there, but these are the things that really have worked for me. Learning deeply about how our brain works and why those things matter was very insightful for me. And I'm gonna link all the books that I read in the description below so that you can read them too if you're interested. And then obviously there are the things that happen. Life happens. The thing with being constant is coming back as soon as possible. It's not stopping, because you're gonna stop. You're gonna stall. Things happen. They will happen. It's not like you can pretend that your life is that perfect and nothing will happen to you. You'll travel somewhere that you can't go to the gym. And then guess what? You get back home and you get started at it as soon as possible. You're gonna go to a dinner with friends once and you're gonna get off your diet. Yeah, so what? You go home and you cook yourself a healthy meal and you get back at it, girl. And this is the end, but I have one more little cheeky trick. Tricks. I kind of like saying that, actually. If you struggle going through long periods of time focusing, in one of the books that I read, it was talking about how our brains use a lot of glucose when we're focusing really hard. And so when you're studying, you can always keep a little sugary drink by your side to replenish that glucose and help you get through it. Milkshakes are not allowed. I usually keep like iced tea. And I did test this, by the way. It does work. This way it doesn't feel like a reward. Like, I'm not thinking about the iced tea all the time. It's just there. If I want it, I can take a sip of it and done. You know, it's not taking up any space in my brain. Maybe like a coffee or an iced tea or something like that. Like something that's not too heavy. Obviously, lemonade, no milkshakes. Thank you so much for sticking through it. That means that you're a champion and that you're gonna do great. And I wish you the very, very best with your studies. Keep going, and I'll see you next time. Bye.